Walkability is at the top of a lot of people's lists in terms of what they're looking for in the right neighborhood when moving to Portland. A lot of people ask us who are moving to Portland what areas are going to have the most coffee shops and restaurants and bars and shops and things like that that we can just get out our front door and walk to. Well, some neighborhoods aren't going to offer that as much, but in this video we're going to talk about the top 8 areas for walkability in Portland, and all that starts now. Hey, what's up everybody? This is Paul Clem with the Home Team Brokers coming to you from Portland, Oregon. And in this video, we're going to talk about the top 8 areas in Portland for walkability. So there's going to be varying degrees here, right? As far as what a neighborhood offers, the age of a neighborhood, the volume of what is offered, right? And there's a lot of little pockets around Portland where there might be an intersection with a couple bars, a couple restaurants, a coffee shop. We're really going to focus on areas that have long strips, long stretches, 5, 10, 15 blocks of shops, restaurants, bars, breweries, shopping, boutiques, all of the things that I think a lot of people would be looking for in a neighborhood that really has that walkability and is really defined by its walkability. So Portland certainly has no shortage of these types of neighborhoods. It really ranges from kind of the quintessential quirky Portland areas to areas that are a little more buttoned up, a little more upscale, areas that are a little older, have a little more charm to it. We're gonna talk about it all. Now, even if you're moving to the Portland metro area, maybe you have your eye on more of a suburban area. A lot of suburbs around Portland offer great accessibility into the city. A lot of people moving to a metro area at least want to know, okay, what are some of the areas, if I'm going to be going into the city, where am I gonna be spending my time? Where am I gonna go park and walk around, spend an afternoon, go out for dinner, all of that. So, of course, in a city you have like a downtown area. Portland certainly has that, great restaurants, things like that. We're not gonna talk about downtown. We're gonna talk about some of these really unique neighborhoods in Portland proper, kind of surrounding the city that a lot of people tend to flock to. Now, if you've been to the channel, welcome back. If this is your first time to the channel and you want to get more videos like this, make sure to hit the subscribe button and tap the little bell to get notified every time we drop a new video. And we've helped so many people relocate to Oregon and move to the Portland area. As real estate professionals, we love to help with that process. So if that's you, give us a call, send us a text, shoot us an email, or click the link down below in the description of the video and schedule a Zoom call with us. Either way, we would love to help with your move to Portland. Number 1 on the list is the Pearl District and Northwest District. So these are really kind of 2 areas, but bordering each other. So it all kind of encompasses one area. You can walk from the Pearl District up to Nob Hill, Alphabet District, Northwest 23rd. It goes by many names. Or you can walk from Northwest 23rd down into the Pearl District. It's, probably a 15-20 minute walk depending on where you're going. Some people might Uber, but they are close enough to put these into one category. So starting with the Pearl District, this is on the northwest side of downtown, so it is an extension of downtown, big buildings, not necessarily skyscrapers, but you get some 20+ story buildings, so you do have some big buildings. You do have some businesses mixed in, primarily at the ground level. The Pearl District is really residential, and it's all condominiums. You do have some apartment buildings in here as well, but there are a lot of people that live in the Pearl District, far more than live in downtown Portland on the southwest side of downtown, what you would consider to be downtown south of Burnside. So the Pearl District has kind of a luxury upscale feel to it in a lot of ways. This is where you'll find some of the nicer, more expensive restaurants in the city, but you have a lot of great breweries. There are some dive bars. There are some kind of quote unquote younger bars where people go out till 2 a.m. and do what they do. Miss those days, but either way, the Pearl District really does have kind of a wide variety of offerings as far as entertainment. And anywhere you lived in the Pearl District, you're gonna be able to walk out of your building and you're gonna have a coffee shop on the corner. You're gonna have access to convenience store, grocery store, again, restaurant, shopping, all of those things. There are some parks as well, so it is an urban area, right? So there's not as many green spaces as in some of the neighborhoods that we'll talk about, but there are some green spaces where you can get out, walk your dog, go for a run. You also have quick and easy access to the waterfront, and along the waterfront, all throughout Portland, on the west side and the East Bank Promenade, you have kind of a paved walkway. So this is an area where a lot of people like to get out, go for a walk, go for a run. The Pearl District, definitely sought after, but definitely has a very unique character to it when you compare it to some of the more traditional Portland neighborhoods, like Northwest Portland, set just to the west of the Pearl District. So again, this is Nob Hill, or the Alphabet District, because the streets are actually, go in alphabetical order. Or some people just say I'm going out to 23rd, Northwest 23rd, and also Northwest 21st. Now you get up into this area, once you pass about 16th or so, it becomes single family homes. Now some of these are big homes that have been sectioned off and actually have become condos. You do have some multifamily like duplexes and triplexes and things like that, but you have a lot of old 100-plus-year-old homes that are big and beautiful, in a lot of cases really well maintained. Some of the coolest architecture you'll see in all of the city of Portland is in this neighborhood. Along Northwest 21st and Northwest 23rd, you have a ton of restaurants, a ton of shopping, again, breweries, bars, coffee shops, all the things that people typically would be looking for, pet stores, again, you name it. Now, this is going to be a little more buttoned down, right, from the Pearl District. So you do have a little bit of a contrast where this is definitely an expensive area to live. The prices aren't necessarily going to be cheap per se, but you're going to find a lot more offerings that are going to be a little more affordable than the Pearl District. Pearl District, if you're going out, that might be an area where, maybe you dress a little nicer, for example, although certainly not required, and you wouldn't stick out if you didn't. But in Northwest 23rd and this Nob Hill area, it's going to be a little more relaxed, a little more of a neighborhood feel. Doesn't quite have kind of the upscale feel that the Pearl District does. Again, a very sought after area. These are two neighborhoods on the west side of the river. We're going to talk about a lot of areas on the east side of the river as well. And next on the list, we're actually going to talk about 4 neighborhoods in one. So you have Sunnyside, Buckman, Hosford Abernethy, and Richmond. So Sunnyside and Richmond are set a little bit further east. So maybe they start at about 20th and go out to about 50th. And then Hosford Abernethy and Buckman are going to be closer into the river. But these areas kind of make up like a quadrant right in the heart of Southeast Portland, where you have some of the hippest, coolest, most popular neighborhoods to hang out in. And you have a lot of different long stretches of these streets that have, again, bars, restaurants, shopping, and a lot of great parks too. So this whole area is going to be a little bit more residential, in particular Sunnyside in Richmond. Now, when you get into Hosford Abernethy and when you get into Buckman, you're closer to the river. So there's actually this central east side industrial area. So you do have a lot of kind of industrial buildings, in particular on the west side of Grand and MLK. Grand and MLK are the two main thoroughfares that run north-south through this area, and they're going to be about, I think it's 5th Street and 6th Street is what they basically are in place of. So down on Grand and MLK, you do have some restaurants, you do have some bars, some coffee shops, things like that. But especially once you get right on the river in this area, again, down in this industrial area, you have Water Avenue. So along this stretch of Water Avenue, you have some really great restaurants, you have bars, breweries, coffee shops, and you also have OMSI, the Oregon Museum of Science and Industry, which is a really popular area, great for families, great place to spend an afternoon. This area in Hosford Abernethy and in Buckman, in particular, where you get into a little bit more of an industrial area, can be a little bit of a seedier area, a lot of tents, things like that around here. So, hopefully this is something that will continue to improve and clean up over time. When you get a little bit further east into Sunnyside and Richmond, again, these are going to be a little more residential, but you have these main thoroughfares going through, which again are some of the more popular neighborhoods, popular areas in Southeast Portland and in all of Portland. So you have Division Street running through Richmond, this Richmond area, and Hosford Abernethy, and then kind of at the cutting right in between these 4 neighborhoods is Hawthorne. Hawthorne is really kind of the OG, street where a lot of people like to get out and go shopping and spend an afternoon. And then on the north side of Hawthorne, you have Sunnyside and you have Buckman. So going through Sunnyside and Buckman, you have Morrison and Belmont and Stark Street. So all of these streets have 5, 10, sometimes 25 block stretches of some of the best restaurants in Portland. Great pizza, great food, wineries, wine tasting rooms, breweries, parks, stores, shopping, a lot of great stuff, a lot of great entertainment. And probably this area overall, if you look at these 4 neighborhoods combined, is going to be the most walkable area in all of Portland, because when we're looking at actually 4 neighborhoods in one, that makes up a really large footprint of Southeast Portland in this case. All right, next we have to go to North Portland. We're going to talk about Boise and Eliot. So these are 2 neighborhoods that share a border. In these neighborhoods, you have North Williams and North Vancouver, and then you have North Mississippi. So North Mississippi is arguably, the most popular kind of stretch, entertainment district area to go hang out in. A really high concentration of bars, in particular bars that offer some more nightlife. So kind of like we talked about in the Pearl District, somewhat in Northwest as well. These are going to, there's going to be some bars here where people are, getting out there at, 10 p.m. and, closing it down at 2 a.m. But there's a lot of really great restaurants in this area too. There's a lot of kind of more elevated places to go, maybe get a drink, for example, where, you're not like going to the club, but, there's some breweries. There's a place called Prost that's really popular. It's like a German style tap room, and then it has all these food carts outside of it. There's shopping and boutiques on North Mississippi, so very popular area to hang out. And then more recently, really, on North Williams and a little bit on North Vancouver, this corridor here in this Boise-Eliot area developed a little more recently. So this was a little bit more of a nondescript area, for forever, until maybe in the last 10 or 15 years. You kind of see the gentrification come in. You see the apartment buildings. I don't know if there's a ton of condos there, but there are a lot of 4 or 5 story apartment buildings. Then all along the ground level, on the street level, you have shops, restaurants, breweries, you name it, a lot of great options. And again, between Mississippi, Williams, and Vancouver, some of the highest rated restaurants in all of Portland, very popular area to hang out, and definitely one of the more sought after neighborhoods to live in. All right, next on the list we have St. John's. So way up in North Portland on the peninsula. So you get as far north as you can get in Portland, in kind of that 5th quadrant, North Portland. You have St. John's, Cathedral Park, University of Portland is here. So you have some really cool neighborhoods around the university, around St. John's. You do have some apartment buildings and condos and things that have gone up, some townhomes. It's really kind of filled with a lot of old bungalows, 50, 60, 70 plus year old, like 2, 3 bedroom homes, single level. You see a lot of that right in St. John's. St. John's itself feels pretty removed from a lot of the areas that we've been talking about. Some of the closer in areas in Southeast Portland, Boise-Eliot, Pearl District. A lot of these are very close in proximity to downtown and to kind of the city center. This area in North Portland, St. John's, you're going to be a much further distance north up there, but you do have kind of some sneaky quick access into downtown because you have the big, beautiful St. John Bridge, one of the postcard bridges, definitely one of the more photographed areas and kind of an iconic representation of Portland is the St. John Bridge, the bridge furthest to the north. From St. John's, you can take the St. John's Bridge over to the west side, take Highway 30, and just hit a couple stoplights, you get into an industrial area, then you're in Northwest Portland and can access Front Street and NATO Parkway right downtown Portland. So you actually have some pretty good access to getting to the city, although you're a little bit further, you're a little bit more removed. And St. John's feels like its own little town, kind of standing alone from Portland in a lot of ways. It has this one stretch really of this downtown St. John's area. It probably doesn't have as high a volume of kind of the shopping, the restaurants, the bars, the coffee shops. You'll hear me say that a lot in this video. It definitely hasn't, and it seems like more and more is coming in all the time. It does feel a little bit more kind of run down a little bit in some ways, and I don't mean that to degrade the area at all, but kind of on this Main Street area in St. John's, you don't see every commercial space filled. It's not an area that is necessarily as bustling all the time as like a Mississippi or a Division Street or a Hawthorne, for example, but a very walkable area. Again, you feel like you're in a kind of a little town with a little main street, but you're just north of downtown Portland in the city. So it has a really cool dynamic there. Just north of St. John's too, you have Pier Park, which is an enormous park. It's, I don't know, probably at least 20 acres. It might be like 50 acres. Really wooded, really great place to go walk around, go for a jog. There's a disc golf course there too, so if you're into that thing. And if you're into golf too, there's actually a pretty good concentration of golf courses accessible from North Portland and St. John's. So you have like Heron Lakes, for example, and some others along Columbia and kind of through that corridor. So St. John's, an area that definitely a lot of people bring up to us, an area that is very walkable, and it's gonna be a little bit more on the affordable side when you put it side by side with some of these other walkable Portland neighborhoods. All right, next on the list, we're gonna talk about Sellwood and Moreland. So these are, again, two neighborhoods just bordering each other, about as far south in southeast as you can get. So the Sellwood Bridge comes from the west side over into Sellwood, and then you have 13th and 17th, kind of these main drags through this area where you have some great shops, some great restaurants, probably not as high a volume of, super high rated, really well-known restaurants and things like that. It's more of an older Portland neighborhood. It's kind of had this dynamic for a long time. So it has a little bit more character, a little more uniqueness to it. Kind of like a Hawthorne in a way, and it's about as removed south as St. John's is to the north. So you're a little bit more tucked away on the south side. You're bordering Milwaukee, so from Sellwood, from Moreland, you can get right into downtown Milwaukee and in to the city of Milwaukee very quickly, very easily. It's right there on the Willamette River. And again, it feels a little bit more removed than some of kind of these inner southeast neighborhoods that are really walkable. But Sellwood, Moreland, very sought after areas, a really high volume, we're talking 10, 15, 20 plus blocks of, again, shopping, restaurants, bars, coffee shops, all the things. So this is a really popular area. It's a little bit quieter. It's a little more laid back. It has a little bit more of a true neighborhood feel compared to the other areas in Southeast Portland that we've talked about. So Division Street, Hawthorne, Belmont in Southeast. These are areas where I think if a lot of people were visiting Portland, they're going to be going out there and spending time. If people are like there on vacation, they're going to really go there to get the true Portland experience. Down in Sellwood and Moreland, it's probably going to be a higher quantity, a higher volume of just kind of local people who live in the area or people who live in Portland walking around, checking out the restaurants and shops and things like that. You do have some parks in the area too, which is great. You have the East Moreland golf course. Reed College is nearby, and East Moreland itself is one of the nicer, kind of cooler neighborhoods in all of Portland. It's a lot like an area called Laurelhurst and a neighborhood like Irvington. Has really kind of this old upscale feel to it, 100-plus-year-old homes, really cool. So if you're in Sellwood and Moreland or West Moreland, you're going to be able to access East Moreland, go walk around very, very easily. In Sellwood and in West Moreland, it's going to be your more standard residential area, kind of standard homes, 3 bedrooms, 4 bedrooms, old Portland bungalows, some old craftsman style homes, things like that. But really cool nonetheless, and definitely an area that a lot of people are interested in. You also have something that a lot of people not from the area might not realize or have heard about. In Sellwood, right along the river, you have Oaks Park. So there's a roller skating rink there, and there is kind of this small amusement park. It feels a little more like a county fair. There's this one roller coaster there that has one loop that goes upside down. When they put that in, everyone went nuts. Everyone was really excited. That was like 25 years ago. But Oaks Park is a really great place, to take the kids, great place for families. You have bumper cars and a lot of fun stuff to do. All right, next on the list, we have to go over back to the west side in Southwest Portland, Multnomah Village. So this is an area that a lot of people really like once they find out about it. It's definitely unique to Southwest Portland. So we've talked about some areas in Northeast and North Portland and in Southeast Portland where you have a really high volume of these districts, these areas, these neighborhoods that have a lot of great walkability where you can access all these things, right out your doorstep. In Southwest Portland, you have a little bit more of a suburban feel in a lot of neighborhoods. Now, there's going to be some one-off coffee shops and things like that you can walk to, but it's not until you get to Multnomah Village in Southwest Portland where you're in a neighborhood that surrounds this little Main Street area, primarily Capitol Highway in Southwest Portland along Multnomah Boulevard, where you have a lot of great stuff to do, a lot of great offerings, a lot of great breakfast places. There's really not as many places necessarily for dinner, at least at a high volume, but there's a lot of little great boutiques, there's gift shops and things like that. It's a really popular area to hang around. And again, once people kind of walk around Multnomah Village or find out about it, it's an area that a lot of people tend to gravitate toward because it has less of an urban feel than a lot of these areas that we're talking about. So when you talk about walkability in these districts with these, big long stretches of commercial development and commercial areas, restaurants, dining, bars, things like that, it's going to be a little busier in an urban sense. But over in Southwest Portland and Multnomah Village, it's much more laid back. I would liken it to Sellwood a little bit, although Sellwood itself does feel a little bit busier too in some ways. But Multnomah Village is definitely an older, well-established area. You walk up and down the street, and the way it is right now is more or less the way it was 100 years ago. Now, there's been a couple apartment buildings that have gone in. I know there's been some rezoning, and I know a lot of people who live in the area don't necessarily like that because, they put in apartment buildings with 75 units, but there's not enough parking for everybody, and it's already a pretty congested little area. But either way, when you put this up against like Division Street or Mississippi or North Williams, for example, this is an area that's kind of been intact in its current form for the last 100 years compared to some of those other areas that have really kind of blown up and been developed quite a bit just in the last 10 or 15 years. All right, next on the list is Beaumont-Wilshire. So you're in Northeast Portland, next to Grant Park and Alameda, primarily along Fremont Street. You have about 10, 15, 20 blocks of some great restaurants, more kind of local divey spots, some more kind of casual, fast casual type stuff. You have some stores, some shopping and things like that. But it's a really cool area, and the homes that it's surrounded by are, in a lot of ways, some big, nicer kind of luxury style old homes. A lot of like what we talked about in Eastmoreland, Laurelhurst, Irvington, for example. So one of the coolest areas, one of the coolest old Portland neighborhoods in Beaumont-Wilshire, and right in the middle of this neighborhood, again, you have this stretch along Fremont where you have this primary centralized area that you can walk to. Now, this area is not going to be nearly as busy as a lot of these other areas that we talked about. So, even saying that like Sellwood or St. John's are a little less busy, you're not going to get like the tourists going in to those areas. The area along Fremont and Beaumont-Wilshire is definitely going to be more laid back. It's definitely going to be a little bit quieter. Fremont's a main road, so there's going to be cars driving through there all day. For sure. But again, this isn't an area that's just going to be kind of overcrowded. It's going to be an area where, again, if you live here and you're walking out, to go to a coffee shop, to go to a restaurant there along Fremont, again, it's not going to be as bustling. So I think that's something that a lot of people will like about the area. There's also a Fire on the Mountain, which is a place that has wings. There's a couple locations in Portland, some of the best wings in Portland, so that's a really popular spot. And overall, again, this neighborhood, because of the homes, because of just the makeup of the area, really big, beautiful homes. You do have this little commercial area along Fremont. Definitely an area that a lot of people flock to. All right, last but certainly not least is the Alberta Arts District. So the Alberta Arts District is not an official designated neighborhood. Alberta is a stretch of like 30 blocks where you have shops, restaurants, all the good stuff, all the things that you would want to walk to all along Alberta. Some of the most iconic kind of Portland institutions as far as restaurants, breweries, are on Alberta. So a lot of this is going to be made up of a neighborhood called Vernon and a few other areas that kind of converge around Alberta, a lot like Sunnyside and Richmond and Hosford Abernethy and Buckman do along Hawthorne, kind of going right through the middle of those areas. Alberta is very similar, but a lot of people refer to this area as the Alberta Arts District. So definitely a diverse area as far as what you can get, you know, some nicer restaurants. You know, you have a lot of kind of casual type restaurants, a lot of great breweries. There's some food carts. There used to be the grilled cheese bus. I'm not sure if it's still there, but it was this actual like bus, this like big yellow school bus that you go up to a food cart, get your grilled cheese sandwich, go onto the bus and eat. That's pretty cool. There's a place called Radio Room. There's Great Notion Brewing, definitely one of the kind of the higher rated breweries in Portland. So there's a ton of great stuff to offer on Alberta, and this stretch really runs from MLK to the west to 33rd on the east. So again, you have the better part of 30 blocks where you have this big kind of commercial area, but to the north and to the south along Alberta, all residential living. And you have a pretty diverse offering of residential options as well. So there's not a ton of like condos and apartments around here. A lot of kind of old Portland style homes, bungalows, craftsmen, you know, ranging from probably 1960s and older. There's going to be some tear downs in this area. So some areas or some lots where homes have been torn down and new homes have been constructed, or maybe like a 3-townhome, like a 3-unit set of townhomes, for example. You'll see a lot of things like that. So you'll get some diversity as far as the residential offerings in this area. But one of the more popular areas, one of the more quintessential Portland neighborhoods, you know, on this list for sure, and definitely an area that if you're looking for walkability is going to be as good as any on this list. So if you're thinking about moving to the Portland area, you want to live in the city more or less. You want to live in an area where you can get out and walk around and enjoy kind of what the neighborhood offers, and you don't want to be stuck in, you know, just a totally suburban type neighborhood. These areas on this list, pick any of them, you really can't go wrong, but there are some differences for sure, and that's where we come in. So if you are thinking about moving to the Portland area, if you want to learn more about neighborhoods like this, talk more about home prices, and talk more about your home search, make sure to give us a call, send us a text, shoot us an email, or click the link down below in the description of the video, schedule a Zoom call with us, and we can put together a game plan for you. Now, if this video is helpful, make sure to hit the like button. That helps us out a lot. If you want to get more videos like this, make sure to hit the subscribe button and tap the little bell to get notified every time we drop a new video. As always, we really appreciate you watching, and until next time, we'll talk to you later.